The ending of Demon Slayer is absolutely brutal, with almost all of the Hashira losing their lives and most of the main cast ending up permanently scarred. But what if Tanjiro could go back? What if he got a second chance to save everyone he lost? Today, we're diving into what would happen if Tanjiro was reborn with all his powers and memories intact. Before we begin, there's a crucial detail about Demon Slayer lore I want to cover. In the original story, reincarnation is absolutely real, as the final chapter shows us that everyone who died fighting Muzan comes back in the modern era, living peaceful lives they never got to experience. Our story begins with a tragedy even worse than the original ending, as Tanjiro and the surviving Hashira desperately battle against the Demon King. By this point, there's actually no hope for Muzan as the sun is rising. Tamayo's drug is taking effect, and 4 Hashira and Tanjiro are relentlessly attacking him. In a desperate move, Muzan injects all his blood into Tanjiro, turning him into the new Demon King. In the original timeline, Tanjiro was saved by Nezuko and Kanao arriving to break him out of his demonic trance. But in our story, Nezuko gets there too late. Tanjiro's transformation is complete, and his human soul can only watch while the new Demon King stands in the sunlight, completely unharmed. As Muzan's cells completely take over his body and his humanity slips away, Tanjiro makes a desperate wish for just one more opportunity to save them all. Suddenly, Tanjiro wakes up not as a teenager, but as an infant in his mother's arms. Now, obviously all his memories don't come flooding back at this point, but as he grows up, Tanjiro begins to relive his past through dreams and recollections. By the age of 10, all of Tanjiro's memories are perfectly in place, and he's sure that he's been sent back in time and reborn into his old life. But at the end of the Demon Slayer story, Tanjiro wasn't just a strong version of himself. He had accessed memories from far before he was born. This time, he's born with the flaming dragon mark on his forehead, and naturally possesses the ability to enter the selfless state and see into the transparent world. He's become a near-perfect reincarnation of Yoriichi Tsugikuni himself. In the final battle during the Sunrise Countdown, Tanjiro's greatest setback was that his techniques were still inferior to Yoriichi's. But in this timeline, he has time to perfect sun breathing, and his first step is to ask his father to teach him the Hinokami Kagura. Tanjiro Kamado is puzzled by his son's request, but entertains it regardless, walking Tanjiro through the basic movements of the dance of the fire god. But this is where the psychological weight of rebirth kicks in. As Tanjiro matures, he realizes that his father's death is approaching. Remember, Tanjiro wasn't even an adult at the end of the original Demon Slayer story, so having to pretend to be a normal kid while carrying this knowledge is almost unbearable. After Tanjiro's father passes away, he makes the decision to relocate his family to a nearby village, and convinces his mother that the lonely mountains aren't safe for them anymore. But this is a critical mistake, because Tanjiro quickly learns that changing events creates massive ripple effects he can't predict. Tanjiro hides his Hanafuda earrings and continues practicing the Hinokami Kagura in secret, but these measures aren't enough to hide from Muzan's spies. The Demon King notices that the Kamado family has moved, and extends his search to the nearby villages, eventually locating them. The original date where his family was killed has passed, and Tanjiro relaxes, thinking that he'll eventually join the Demon Slayers for the final battle. But one evening when he's out collecting coal, Muzan strikes with multiple lesser demons. By the time Tanjiro returns, it's not only his family that's been attacked. Multiple villagers who came out when they heard the commotion lie dead in the streets. Tanjiro enters the house to see his mother and young siblings dead, while Nezuko slowly and painfully transforms into a demon. When Giyu Tomioka arrives to investigate the attack, he still encounters Tanjiro, who begs him to spare his sister, as she hasn't tasted human flesh yet. The Water Hashira tries to knock Tanjiro out of the way, but is shocked when he's actually overwhelmed by the boy's strength. You see, Tanjiro already has the Demon Slayer mark at this point, and has mastered total concentration breathing, meaning that he's on a different level from even the Hashira. Giyu sends the siblings to Orokodaki Sakonji, hoping that the former Water Hashira will help Tanjiro unlock his full potential and provide a solution for Nezuko's predicament. When Tanjiro trains with Urokodaki, his master realizes that he doesn't need water breathing, and instead helps Tanjiro perfect sun breathing. Tanjiro also masters the selfless state, which makes his fighting intent impossible to detect. By this point, Tanjiro is on a level where he can take on upper moons, so the final selection and Asakusa arcs are barely a challenge. Tanjiro's encounter with Muzan goes the same way, but this time he's smarter about using his knowledge from the future. Instead of revealing his sun-breathing mastery, Tanjiro lets the Demon King proceed as usual, and instead focuses on meeting Tamayo and Yushiro. Using his knowledge of the past, Tanjiro convinces Tamayo that he's an ally, and sets her on the path to crafting the anti-Muzan drug. When Tanjiro arrives at Mount Nanagumo, he's so overprepared it's almost unfair. Using the transparent world, he dismantles the Spider family's blood demon arts and special abilities before they fully take effect. The battle against Rui almost ends up being pretty one-sided, as Tanjiro has absolutely no trouble cutting through his webs using sun breathing. Nezuko doesn't have to come out and participate in the fight, and by the time Giyu and Shinobu arrive, the situation has been completely taken care of. The Hashira meeting still happens in this timeline, but it's a genuine investigation, not a confrontation. Sanemi and Obanai aren't entirely focused on killing Nezuko, and they want to see how good this rookie really is. But where things really change is after Ubuyashiki Kaguya tells the Hashira to leave and speaks to Tanjiro alone. He's seen over 100 demon slayers in his lifetime, and he knows that no one can be as good as Tanjiro with such little training. After hearing Tanjiro's story, Kaguya warns him about changing too much in the present, as it might bring about a future that's beyond their control. The implication of this is pretty serious, because Tanjiro is forced to let Rengoku die once more in the timeline. Think about it. Muzan launched his attack on the Demon Slayers because they were killing off the upper moons. If Tanjiro and Rengoku somehow managed to kill Akaza, that would lead to a full-scale assault on the Demon Slayers, probably starting with an attack on the Swordsmith village while it's completely unguarded. So, while Tanjiro still defeats Enmu in this timeline, he simply cannot escape fate as Akaza appears before them once more. The Flame Hashira fights valiantly, and Tanjiro is forced to watch from the sidelines for the greater good of humanity. Heading into the entertainment district, we face a pretty serious problem. Because Tanjiro has been handling everything on his own all this time, Nezuko never had to come out and fight, meaning she never developed her blood demon art. That's important because her blood-burning technique was the counter to Gyutaro's poison, meaning that Tanjiro can't let anyone be harmed by the Upper Moon 6's blood sickles. The fight against Daki proceeds as usual, with Tanjiro leading the charge and Zenitsu and Inosuke for support. The critical moment comes when Tengen beheads Daki and Gyutaro emerges, because Tanjiro knows that it's only a matter of time before he begins using his poison. Tanjiro dashes forward and leads the charge against Gyutaro, allowing Zenitsu and Inosuke to handle Daki on their own. This fight is much closer because Tanjiro has to constantly worry about not taking damage, but the tides turn when Tengen awakens his Demon Slayer mark through resonance with Tanjiro. The two quickly overwhelm Gyutaro, and when Tanjiro uses sun breathing to behead him, Inosuke manages to cut through Daki's neck with his serrated swords as well. With the Upper Moon 6 defeated, Tanjiro heads to the Swordsmith village, where the Demon Slayers end up encountering Gyoko and Hantengu. Nothing major changes in this timeline, as Tanjiro's control over sun breathing makes up for Nezuko's absence, and the Demon Slayers handle the situation almost perfectly. The Hashira training arc is where things begin to change pretty seriously, because now Tanjiro and Kaguya have a vision for what the Demon Slayers need to achieve. The Demon Slayers don't only work on awakening their marks, they also try to access the selfless state and transparent world. Since they know the location where the final battle will take place, Kaguya plans for additional weapons and explosives they could use to overwhelm Muzan's regeneration during the battle. When the Demon Slayers are pulled into the Infinity Castle, they're better prepared than they could have ever been before, and the battles against the Upper Moons become much easier. Tanjiro and Giyu overwhelm Akaza from the start using the Selfless State, and they move on to the Sunrise Countdown with far fewer injuries. There's no way that Tanjiro can help with other battles because he never saw them, so Shinobu still has to sacrifice herself to beat Doma, and Muichiro still gets ambushed by Kokushibo. However, everything changes during the Sunrise Countdown because Tanjiro has seen this all before. He knows every trick and every blood demon art that the Demon King will try to use against them, and has warned the Hashira about them all. The Demon Slayer Corps works in perfect coordination, and avoids many of the fatal injuries that were dealt to them in the original timeline. Muzan senses that something's wrong. It's as if they're reading his movements. But by the time the Demon King catches on, it's far too late, as the sun is beginning to rise over the horizon. So he tries his final gambit, sacrificing himself to carry on his will through the sun-breathing user of this generation. But Tanjiro is prepared this time, and as he baits Muzan into that move by drawing close, he quickly steps back and executes the 13th form of sun-breathing, cutting through all 12 of the Demon King's vital organs just as the sun hits them. As the ashes disperse, the Demon Slayers rejoice, but Tanjiro can't help but feel disappointed that he couldn't save everyone. The Demon Slayers have freed humanity from the Demon King's reign of terror, and with the new dawn, their chapter comes to an end as well. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another Demon Slayer video.